Salutations everyone, this is Razor bringing you guys another Overwatch video. I know I may not be the greatest Overwatch player out there making videos, but one thing I am pretty good at is noticing trends and developments when it comes to the matchmaking meta and really what works in this game. I made a video 10 months ago about why Orisa was the best tank in the game, and only in the past month or two are people really starting to catch on to that idea. And with the bunker comp or without bunker comp, really, she's just fantastic, just a better pick than Reinhardt in most circumstances, especially in matchmaking. And 7 months ago I made a video about why Mei is the hidden boss of competitive, and people are just really now starting to understand how insane she is with seeing how the clockwork meta is working, or at least that team composition, and people really seeing in matchmaking that's Mei just stops everything. She counters every strategy possible, and her ult's insane, and her all of her abilities are incredible. But we're not going to talk about Mei right now. Right now we're talking about the state of tanks in Overwatch, bottom 96% in matchmaking, diamond and below, and even really above diamond as well. I think this kind of stands true to everything, especially with the gains that Orisa is making. But the best two tanks in Overwatch right now, and if you're not running GOATS comp, that is Wrecking Ball and Orisa. Now, we all know how Orisa works, right? We've all played Orisa. We all know how to play with an Orisa. She can have more shield uptime and block more things than anyone else, right? She's fantastic in matchmaking because she's just way better than Reinhardt in every single fashion, unless you're running, Zarya Reinhardt with, good communication and synergy, and everybody knows their role, and you have, your healers healing the tanks, and maybe you don't even need your DPS to do anything because Reinhardt is just that unstoppable when he's getting, the support. But when it comes to support and synergy, that doesn't really happen in matchmaking. So Orisa's kind of always been better ever since the second she came onto the scene, especially the lower and lower in rank that you go or play. So we all really know how she works, and of course she's fantastic with the bunker comp getting more and more buffs and GOATS getting more and more nerfed. So when you are at that start select screen, tank is the most important thing, right? That's the thing that should be picked first, because then the rest of your team can build around what synergizes with that tank, especially with whatever main tank that you're running. In an ideal world, that's what you would do. Obviously you have one tricks and people that only want to play the Shimada Bros and McCree and go 4-16 every single game. We can't stop that from happening. But when it comes to us fill players out here who play really only tank and healer 99% of the time, because that's what is needed, which is fine, because tank is the most important role in Overwatch, no matter what level you're in. And your healers are going to, help facilitate your tank being able to do what they're supposed to do. I don't know how I missed that grapple there. It's, some kind of finicky, what you can and can't latch onto in distance and shit like that. But I feel that when it comes to the matchmaking worlds, Orisa's kind of always been the best, especially on defense, and I use her on defense here. But Wrecking Ball is really shaping up to be the best tank in the game. Especially any future nerfs that may be coming to GOATS characters, or 2-2-2 being implemented as a rule either within Overwatch League or competitive or both. Because of his speed, his damage potential, his ultimate, and his utility. And when it comes to competitive play, it's his ability to just do anything he wants by himself. So Orisa's fantastic, right? Because Reinhardt can't do anything by himself. He's just a walking shield. If your Reinhardt gets support, then he's going to do more damage than any of your DPSs, right? Or unless you have a Zarya also on your team, in which case she'll do even more DPS, because that's the role that she has, right? So, in an ideal world, you can play Reinhardt and Zarya the best and just get a lot of tanking, a lot of damage blocked, and a lot of damage done, right? That's not really going to happen in matchmaking most of the time. D.Va keeps getting nerfed in every single patch. It just got nerfed again. I think 7 patches in a row she's been nerfed. So she's almost kind of useless right now. She really is. I know 99% pick rate in Overwatch League, which is starting to go down, and will definitely go down with 2-2-2 being implemented as a rule, possibly. And, you know, Roadhog and Orisa are really the only ones getting buffs. Roadhog really isn't a tank, he's just a DPS with a large health pool, but has really good synergy with Orisa, right? So that's why, you know, we synergize with the pulled pork, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, the ball and chain, you know, really good synergy there. Absolutely fantastic. You can get guaranteed kills if your two tanks are, once again, on the same page with each other. You could say the same about Rein Zarya, but when it comes to the matchmaking meta, right, you have to solo tank a lot because everybody wants to play their shitty DPS, hitting no shots with Widowmaker, be terrible with Hanzo, just keeping getting dove on, doing no damage with, you know, Genji, and getting crapped on by Moiras time and time again. You know, no one ever wants to pick Bastion or Junkrat, you know, easy characters that are going to get way more consistent value. So you're going to have, you know, 2 or 3 DPS characters on your team, no matter what, almost at any level. You know, only when you get to like the top 0.5% are people actually running goats and playing goats like you're supposed to. You know, much like how people never really ran dive in matchmaking. They would just pick dive characters and then not dive with them. Well, goats is a little easier to do and facilitate with dive, but you know, the advantages aren't quite as obvious to the layman out there, especially if they, you know, don't know the mechanics of Overwatch very well, which is all fine and dandy. So like Rein and Zarya, they only work together, and D.Va really only seems to be working with goats right now. Obviously, dive is still, you know, applicable in many circumstances, working well with Winston and synergizes very well. That's always going to be hard to do, and, you know, people just don't want to pick Reinhardt or Zarya, and like nobody's playing D.Va right now, like nobody. So like Ashes and, you know, Faraz are just having field days as things go right now. So like, who has benefited from all these changes? You know, Reinhardt is fantastic at the highest levels, but when it comes to matchmaking, he's garbage, absolute garbage, right? Because he can't do anything by himself, and in solo queue, you need to be able to do shit by yourself, especially if you are the only tank, and Reinhardt as a solo tank can't do anything. Orisa, fantastic, can block way more damage than any other character in the game, and while she's blocking damage, she can be a long-range threat to Faraz, to Brigitte, to Zenyatta's, to your the enemy tank line, right? Orisa's got a lot that she can do by herself, and for the longest time was the best solo tank in the game, right? Because she could just protect and do damage and hope that, you know, the enemy team has a worse tank setup going right now, or, you know, you get better time on your attack. So that's kind of just been the solo queue meta when it comes to tanking and solo tanking especially. But Wrecking Ball, I feel, works in every single lineup, every single one. Whether you're running solo tank or 2 tanks, double DPS, triple DPS, quad DPS, I feel like Wrecking Ball, when played right and has, you know, a little bit of, I mean, not even necessarily a little bit of help, but at least teammates knowing what Wrecking Ball does, right? Wrecking Ball's been out almost exactly a year, and people still don't know how to play this character. And I'll make a separate video on how to play as and with a Wrecking Ball on your team. So we won't get into that right now. But Wrecking Ball's ability to be a solo tank is going to be a bit better in certain places than Orisa, especially on the attack, where you know, sometimes if you're on a payload, you can put the shield up and, you know, maybe someone runs Bastion, or maybe some DPS like really goes off or keeps getting the supports over and over again. You can bank on that happening, but Wrecking Ball kind of relies on your team even less so than Orisa. Orisa without her shield, useless. Orisa, when a Tracer is on the enemy team, almost useless, right? In matchmaking, where, you know, peeling is an absurd word that no one knows that exists. And, you know, she needs healing, and you need to, you know, follow up on those pulls. Things aren't going to be super duper consistent with Orisa, and they won't be consistent with Wrecking Ball either, all the time, but he synergizes kind of with anything. If you're running another tank, Wrecking Ball is amazing. If you're pairing Wrecking Ball with Zarya, she bubbles him in and he's gonna get a kill, right? Because he also has the adaptive shield. You pair him up with Roadhog, Roadhog's just going to be a ton of damage and be a sponge that the enemy team is going to have to figure out at the same time taking you out, who is going to be just as hard, as not harder, because of the mobility and the adaptive shield and being able to swing away from danger and everything like that. When it comes to D.Va, Diva's able to eat up those cooldowns with Defense Matrix, as well as, help you with the high ground or dive on a target as if you were a Winston. Combining with the Winston, Winston's also going to have his shields to block cooldowns, dive with you as the Wrecking Ball, because nobody picks Winston because I have to pick any tank, I guess I'll pick Winston. Nobody does. If you pick Winston, you're either hoping that your teammates are going to dive with you, or you're just sick at Winston, right? So that's not going to happen very often, but if it does, Wrecking Ball works with Winston as well. And if you're running Orisa, then she's going to be the focal point of the enemy team, right? They're going to we have to destroy her shield and, deal with her. Meanwhile, Wrecking Ball can kind of be a little flanker and take care of the Zen or the Ana over and over again, or, do what he does best and push the enemy tank line out of position, whether it be an Orisa or Reinhardt, which are the mainstays as the main tanks, right? Because nobody plays Winston because he takes coordination, so you can't really blame people for not wanting to use Winston. So people really rely on our two big shield tanks in Orisa and Reinhardt. But Wrecking Ball doesn't need a shield. Certain teammates might, and that's the only way you can facilitate them to get any success. So Orisa is always going to have a place. But Wrecking Ball's ability to swing in on a squishy, get some damage, dive down, and then shoot them as they fall back down is incredible. His ability to push people off of the high ground like you usually have on attacking on Dorado or on the first point of Horizon, or maybe even Junkertown or things like that, where the enemy team immediately is at high ground. Wrecking Ball can just annihilate that first point all by himself by knocking them out of position. As long as your team is able to sometimes take advantage of having the advantage, Wrecking Ball is going to do that more so than any other character can, because he can sweep and pile drive down and adaptive shield and run away consistently, and that combination is always going to put you in advantage. So your team isn't always going to take advantage of that. People don't really know how to play with the Wrecking Ball as a main tank, and most people don't even know that he is a main tank, but he's absolutely fantastic at what he does when it comes to bullying the tanks or bullying the supports. He's not great at taking out DPS. Certain DPS he's amazing, like Soldier, and can be a threat to Pharah's, which, even Orisa can struggle with at times, especially at long range, because she's not a hit scan like Wrecking Ball is. But Wrecking Ball can kind of fit anywhere and do a solo job, sometimes better than Orisa. It's just sometimes you're going to need some help from your team, and maybe there's going to be a defense, like if they're running Brigitte and Symmetra and Torbjorn, that's going to be hell for your Wrecking Ball, and you might just need to hope that you get another tank to help you as you are Reinhardt or Orisa or something like that. So these are the best tanks in Overwatch pretty much no matter what you're doing, especially in solo queue, especially if you're solo tanking. These are the only choices you should be making.